Black boy asked to give up VIP seat for white passenger. One call to CEO dad later. Entire crew fired. What happens when a flight attendant tries to bully a black teenager out of his paid first-class seat based on assumptions? The shocking twist isn't just the blatant discrimination, but how one phone call to the boy's CEO dad gets the plane turned around and the entire crew removed before takeoff. Like, subscribe, and listen now to hear the full story and the fallout. "Excuse me, son. I believe you're in my seat." The voice, sharp and dripping with condescension, cut through the quiet murmur of the first-class cabin. Jalen looked up from his phone, pulling one earbud out. A woman stood in the aisle beside seat 2A, impeccably dressed, diamonds glinting at her ears, her arms crossed tightly, impatience radiating from her like expensive perfume. Beside her stood the lead flight attendant, his posture stiff, his smile tight and professional, but not reaching his eyes. "I think there's been a mistake," Jalen said politely, holding up his boarding pass, clearly displaying Carter, J/seat 2A. "This is my assigned seat." The woman, Evelyn Stokes, according to the flight attendant who addressed her by name, scoffed audibly. "Don't be ridiculous. This is first class. Your seat must be further back. Much further back." The flight attendant, Victor Langley, didn't ask to see Jalen's pass. He didn't glance at the seat number. His eyes flickered over Jalen's comfortable black hoodie, his sneakers, his youthful face, his dark skin. "Young man," Victor said, his voice adopting a tone of weary authority, "Mrs. Stokes is one of our Platinum Elite members. We need to resolve this quickly. Perhaps you misunderstood your boarding pass." "I didn't misunderstand," Jalen replied, keeping his voice steady though a knot of anger tightened in his stomach. "This is 2A. Could you please check your manifest?" Victor's smile tightened further, becoming a smirk. "The manifest isn't the issue here. It's about respecting our valued passengers. Now, are you going to move quietly, or do I need to call security to escort you to your actual seat?" The threat hung in the air, thick and ugly. Other passengers nearby pretended to read magazines or stare out the windows, but Jalen could feel their eyes, hear the shift in the cabin's atmosphere. He was being singled out, his presence questioned, his valid ticket dismissed, all under the guise of customer service. Why? The question echoed silently, demanding an answer Victor Langley clearly wasn't interested in finding. Jalen Carter was, by most measures, a fortunate 16-year-old. Bright, articulate, with a quick smile and an easy confidence, he was passionate about technology and coding, already developing his own simple apps. He was also the only son of Marcus Carter, the founder and CEO of Carter Technologies, a multi-billion-dollar software and hardware conglomerate known for innovation and its ubiquitous presence in global markets. Growing up as the son of a self-made tech titan afforded Jalen privileges: a comfortable home in Los Angeles, access to good schools, opportunities many kids only dreamed of. This trip to New York, flying first class on Skylead Airlines, was one such opportunity. Marcus had secured him a spot and the ticket to attend a prestigious youth technology summit, a chance to network and learn alongside other promising young minds. Marcus Carter, however, had raised his son with a keen awareness of the world beyond their bubble. A black man who had overcome significant obstacles and biases to build his empire, Marcus instilled in Jalen the values of hard work, humility, integrity, and resilience. He taught Jalen to navigate spaces where he might be underestimated or judged unfairly, advising him to remain calm, think strategically, and never let anyone diminish his worth. Jalen, though comfortable in boardrooms, occasionally visiting his father's office, preferred the anonymity of a hoodie and jeans to designer labels. He was excited about the conference, eager to prove his own merit, not just coast on his father's name. Sky Elite Airlines was a major player in the aviation industry, priding itself on its premium service, extensive route network, and lucrative corporate partnerships. Carter Technologies was one of Sky Elite's top corporate clients, holding a multi-million-dollar annual contract for executive travel worldwide. This relationship meant dedicated account managers, preferential treatment for Carter Tech employees, usually, and direct lines of communication to Sky Elite's upper management, leverage Marcus Carter rarely needed to use, but which existed nonetheless. The world of air travel, especially in premium cabins, often reflected societal hierarchies. First class was a realm of seasoned business travelers, wealthy vacationers, and airline status chasers. A space where assumptions could be made based on attire, age, and race. Flight crews, while trained in customer service, operated under pressure, sometimes relying on shortcuts or biases, particularly when dealing with perceived status conflicts. Jalen, settling into the plush leather of Seat 2A at LAX, was simply excited about the flight, the conference, maybe watching a couple of movies. He was aware of the potential for awkwardness. A young black kid in a hoodie in first class might draw glances, but he put in his earbuds, focused on his phone, and assumed the ticket in his hand was all the justification he needed. He hadn't anticipated a direct challenge, nor the unprofessional bias of a senior crew member tasked with ensuring all passengers felt welcome and respected. The boarding process had been smooth. Jalen found Seat 2A easily, stowed his carry-on, and settled in, texting his dad a quick, "Boarded, see you in NYC" message. He watched other first-class passengers file in, mostly older business types in suits, a few couples. Then Evelyn Stokes arrived, scanning the cabin with an air of ownership before stopping abruptly at his row. Her immediate assumption that he was in her seat, delivered with undisguised disdain, took Jalen by surprise. He'd encountered subtle biases before, sidelong glances or assumptions, but this was overt, aggressive. "Excuse me," Jalen asked, initially thinking she must be mistaken about the row number. He politely presented his boarding pass. "See? 2A. Jalen Carter." Evelyn barely glanced at it. "Impossible. My assistant booked this seat. There must be a mistake with your ticket." Her voice was loud enough to draw attention from nearby passengers. "Maybe you should check with the gate agent," Jalen suggested calmly, trying to de-escalate. It was then that Victor Langley, the lead flight attendant supervising the first-class cabin, intervened. Jalen expected him to resolve the situation quickly by checking the manifest or Evelyn's pass. Instead, Victor immediately seemed to size Jalen up and dismiss him. "Ma'am, please allow me," Victor said smoothly to Evelyn, then turned to Jalen, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Son, Mrs. Stokes is a highly valued platinum elite flyer with us. We need to make sure our best customers are comfortable. Why don't we find you another seat?" Jalen felt a surge of indignation. "Another seat? This is my seat. 2A. I have the boarding pass right here. Can you please just check your system?" Victor's professional veneer cracked slightly, revealing impatience and prejudice. "Look, kid," he said, lowering his voice but his tone hardening, "I don't have time for games. People in these seats," he gestured around the cabin, "don't look like they just rolled out of bed. Now, are you going to move back to economy where you belong? Or do I have to involve airport security?" The implication was clear, the insult deliberate. Evelyn chimed in triumphantly. "Exactly. You probably forged the ticket. Get him out of here." This was the inciting incident. Not just Evelyn's demand, but the flight attendant's blatant refusal to follow procedure, his immediate siding with the demanding passenger, and his use of coded, racially charged language to question Jalen's right to be there. Jalen's mind raced. His father's advice echoed, stay calm. Think. Don't react emotionally. Getting into a shouting match wouldn't help. Refusing to move would likely result in security being called, creating an even bigger scene, potentially missing his flight and the conference. But giving up the seat felt like validating their prejudice, accepting their judgment that he didn't belong. His initial reaction was a mixture of fury, humiliation, and a surprising clarity. He wouldn't be bullied. He wouldn't be intimidated. His initial goal solidified. Stand his ground politely but firmly, insist on procedure being followed, and document the encounter. He subtly angled his phone, resting on his lap, ensuring the camera lens had a clear view, and discreetly hit the record button. Sir, he said, his voice leveled despite the tremor of anger he felt. I am in my assigned seat, 2A. I request that you verify this with your official passenger manifest before threatening me with security. Jalen's calm insistence and the act of recording seemed to fluster Victor Langley momentarily. The flight attendant exchanged an uneasy glance with Evelyn Stokes, whose triumphant expression faltered slightly. However, instead of backing down and checking the manifest as requested, Victor doubled down, perhaps feeling his authority challenged, particularly in front of other passengers and misses. Stokes, put that phone away, son, Victor snapped, his voice sharp. Recording crew members is against airline policy. Now, I've asked you politely. This is first class. We accommodate our elite passengers. Either you move voluntarily to an available seat in the main cabin, or I will have you removed for noncompliance. He deliberately avoided acknowledging Jalen's seat assignment, framing it solely as a matter of Jalen refusing a crew instruction. Evelyn Stokes seized the moment. Exactly. He's being disruptive. Just get rid of him so we can take off. Several other passengers now openly stared, some looking uncomfortable, others nodding slightly in agreement with the idea that Jalen was causing a delay. A man across the aisle muttered, just loud enough to be heard. Shouldn't make a fuss, kid. Conversely, a woman seated behind Jalen discreetly angled her own phone, also appearing to record, catching Jalen's eye and offering a tiny, almost imperceptible nod of support. Jalen felt the pressure mounting. Victor was intentionally misrepresenting the situation, twisting Jalen's insistence on his rights into an act of defiance. Calling security now would likely result in a messy, public removal, regardless of the facts. He knew he needed leverage beyond just his boarding pass and his recording. He needed intervention. Keeping his phone recording, he said clearly, Flight Attendant Langley, you are refusing to verify my assigned seat, 2A, and are threatening removal based on misses. Stokes' claim and your assumptions about me. I need to make a brief phone call. Before Victor could object further, Jalen quickly dialed his father's number. Marcus Carter answered on the second ring, his voice sharp and businesslike. Jalen? Everything all right? Thought you'd be taxiing by now. Dad. Jalen kept his voice low but urgent, acutely aware of Victor and Evelyn watching him. I have a situation. I'm in my seat, 2A, but the lead flight attendant and another passenger are insisting I move to economy, questioning my ticket, threatening security. They refused to check the manifest. There was a beat of silence on the other end. Then Marcus's voice dropped, losing all warmth, becoming pure, cold steel. Put the flight attendant on the phone, Jalen. Now. Jalen held the phone out towards Victor. My father would like to speak with you. Victor looked momentarily confused, then scoffed. I'm not talking to your daddy, kid. This is between you and the airline. He insists, Jalen said firmly. His name is Marcus Carter. The name didn't seem to register immediately with Victor, whose focus was solely on the immediate conflict. He waved the phone away dismissively. Tell your father the crew is handling it. Now, are you moving, or am I calling security? Seeing Victor refuse the call added another layer to the incident. Refusal to even speak with a concerned parent or potentially verify Jalen's identity. Jalen relayed this refusal to his father. The response from Marcus was immediate and chillingly calm. Okay, so, stay calm. Do not move from your seat. I'm handling this. Seat tight. The line went dead. Jalen didn't know exactly what his father would do, but he knew Marcus Carter did not make idle threats, and he possessed considerable influence. A new complication arose. The plane doors had closed, and the aircraft began its slow pushback from the gate. They were now technically on their way, making intervention much harder. Victor looked smug, believing he'd won, that Jalen was now trapped. Evelyn Stokes smirked, settling into the seat across the aisle from Jalen, presumably her actual assigned seat, which she hadn't wanted. The tension remained unresolved as the plane began its journey towards the runway, Jalen unsure what, if anything, would happen next. The taxi towards the runway was agonizingly slow. Jalen sat stiffly in seat 2A, ignoring the pointed glares from Victor Langley as the flight attendant moved through the cabin and the occasional smug glance from Evelyn Stokes. He clutched his phone, the recording still active, wondering what his father could possibly do now that the plane was moving. Had Marcus understood the urgency? Could anyone even intervene at this point? Doubt began to creep in. Maybe he should have just moved, avoided the conflict, swallowed the humiliation. Just as the plane reached the holding area near the active runway, waiting for clearance to take off, the intercom crackled. It wasn't the captain's usual pre-flight announcement. A different voice, female, slightly strained, came over the speakers, addressing the entire aircraft. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for this brief delay. We need to return to the gate momentarily to address a passenger manifest discrepancy. Please remain seated. Cabin crew, prepare for return to gate. A wave of murmurs went through the plane. Victor Langley looked startled, then annoyed. Evelyn Stokes frowned, tapping her foot impatiently. Jalen felt a surge of adrenaline. Dad! The plane slowly reversed its course, taxiing back towards the terminal building. As they reconnected to the jet bridge, the cabin door hissed open. Two figures stepped aboard. Diane Brooks, a crisp, professional-looking woman in a Sky Elite ground operations uniform, and behind her, two uniformed airport police officers. Victor immediately approached Diane, launching into his narrative. Diane, thank goodness. We have a situation here. Passenger refusing instructions, claiming a seat. Diane Brooks held up a hand, cutting him off politely but firmly. She consulted a tablet she carried. Mr. Langley, I have the official passenger manifest right here. Her eyes scanned the tablet, then lifted to meet Jalen's. Mr. Jalen Carter. Yes, ma'am, Jalen replied. You are confirmed in seat 2A. Yes, ma'am. Boarding pass verified at the gate. Diane then looked at Evelyn Stokes. Mrs. Stokes, our records show you assigned to seat 4D. Is that correct? Evelyn flushed. Well, yes, but this boy... Diane interrupted again, her tone hardening slightly. Then you are currently in the wrong seat, Mrs. Stokes. And Mr. Langley. She turned to the flight attendant, her gaze sharp. Standard procedure requires verifying the manifest before displacing a ticketed passenger or threatening removal. Why was this not done? Victor stammered, Mrs. Stokes is Platinum Elite. I assumed. You assumed incorrectly, Mr. Langley, Diane stated coolly. Mr. Carter is correctly seated. This moment, the public validation of Jalen's ticket and the direct refutation of Victor's actions by an airline official was the turning point. The narrative immediately flipped. Jalen was no longer the accused. Victor and Evelyn were clearly in the wrong. The intervention, clearly prompted by high-level communication initiated by Marcus Carter, demonstrated that Jalen did have power and that the airline was taking the incident seriously, at least for now. Jalen felt a wave of relief, but also a hardening resolve. This wasn't just about a seat anymore. It was about the blatant bias and abuse of authority he had faced. His goal shifted from defense to offense. Ensure accountability for Victor Langley's actions and the prejudice he represented. He knew the recording on his phone was now crucial evidence. The point of no return had arrived with the plane turning back to the gate. The atmosphere in the first-class cabin was now thick with tension and embarrassment. Diane Brooks calmly requested Evelyn Stokes move to her assigned seat or face removal for noncompliance. Evelyn, sputtering about her status and making disparaging remarks about Jalen, initially refused, demanding to speak to the captain. Diane remained firm, signaling the airport police officers forward slightly. Faced with the real possibility of being escorted off, Evelyn finally, sullenly, gathered her belongings and retreated towards her actual seat further back, avoiding Jalen's gaze. Diane then turned back to Victor Langley and the two other flight attendants who had stood by silently during the initial confrontation. Mr. Langley, M.S. Thorne, Mr. Davies, she addressed them formally. Due to your failure to follow established procedures in handling this passenger dispute, and pending a full investigation into the matter, Sky Elite Operations requires you to deplane immediately. A replacement crew is on standby. Victor was aghast. Deplane? You can't be serious. Over this? He's just a kid. He is a ticketed first-class passenger, Mr. Langley, Diane replied evenly. And this situation was handled unprofessionally and potentially discriminatorily. Please collect your belongings. The three crew members, faces pale with shock and anger, exchanged panicked glances but saw the futility of arguing further with the police officers standing by. They gathered their crew bags and exited the aircraft onto the jet bridge, where airline managers were waiting. Jalen watched them go, feeling a complex mix of vindication, relief, and lingering anger. He discreetly stopped the recording on his phone and saved the file. He knew the immediate crisis was resolved, but the underlying issues weren't. He needed to talk to his father, figure out the next steps. As the replacement crew came aboard and began preparing for departure again, Jalen texted his father. Situation resolved for now. Original crew removed. We'll call after landing. Marcus replied almost instantly. Good. Clara Evans is handling it from our end. We'll meet you at JFK. Clara Evans. Carter Technologies' formidable chief counsel. Jalen knew her involvement meant his father wasn't just aiming for an apology. He was seeking accountability. Landing in New York several hours later, after the significant delay, Jalen was met right outside the gate by his father and Clara. Marcus hugged him tightly, his relief palpable but his eyes still holding a steely edge. Clara, ever the professional, got straight to the point after ensuring Jalen was okay. Jalen, your recording is crucial. Combined with statements we're already gathering from other passengers, including the woman who also recorded the incident, and Diane Brooks's official report. We have a very strong case against Langley and potentially Sky Elite for discriminatory practices. She explained they had already put Sky Elite on formal notice, referencing the Carter Technologies corporate account and demanding not just disciplinary action, but a review of their policies and training. Marcus is prepared to terminate the Sky Elite contract entirely if they don't take meaningful action, Clara stated coolly. Jalen felt a surge of determination. This was bigger than just him now. His father's influence provided leverage, But the core issue was the bias Victor Langley represented. His new strategy, formulated with Marcus and Clara, was clear: use his experience, his recording, and his father's corporate pressure to force Sky Elite into making concrete changes, ensuring no other passenger, regardless of age, race, or attire, would face similar treatment. He forwarded the recording file to Clara. The fight wasn't over. It had just moved to a different arena. The days following the incident were a whirlwind of activity coordinated by Clara Evans. Sky Elite, facing immense pressure from a major corporate client, the viral passenger videos, which inevitably surfaced online despite initial attempts to contain them, and potential lawsuits, moved quickly into damage control mode. They issued a public apology for the delay and mishandling of a passenger seating issue, carefully avoiding specifics about the discrimination claims initially. Victor Langley and the other implicated crew members were officially suspended without pay pending the outcome of Sky Elite's internal investigation. Clara, however, pushed harder, leveraging the threat of litigation and the withdrawal of the Carter Tech contract. She demanded access to internal records related to passenger complaints, crew disciplinary actions, and training protocols. She specifically requested personnel files for Langley and logs for flights where Evelyn Stokes had previously traveled, suspecting this might not be the first time either had been involved in such incidents. Sky Elite's legal team initially stonewalled, citing privacy concerns and union rules. But under mounting pressure and the clear evidence from Jalen's recording, they began to cooperate, albeit slowly. Jalen, meanwhile, attended the Youth Technology Summit, but the experience was colored by the events on the plane. He found himself looking at the tech industry's diversity issues with new eyes, realizing bias wasn't confined to airline cabins. He spoke passionately during a panel discussion, not just about coding, but about the need for equal opportunity and challenging assumptions in all fields, subtly referencing his recent experience without naming names. His words resonated, earning him unexpected applause and respect. Back in L.A., Clara's investigation started yielding results. Langley's file revealed previous passenger complaints citing arrogance and dismissive behavior, though none explicitly mentioned racial bias had resulted in more than a slap on the wrist. More significantly, cross-referencing flight logs and passenger complaints hinted at a pattern. On flights where Langley was lead attendant, there seemed to be a statistically higher number of involuntary downgrades or seating disputes involving minority passengers in premium cabins, often resolved in favor of high-status flyers. While not conclusive proof of a conspiracy, it strongly suggested a pattern of biased decision-making. Furthermore, internal emails obtained through discovery, after significant legal wrangling, showed Langley communicating with certain high-status passengers, including Evelyn Stokes, prior to flights, hinting at doing his best to secure preferred seating, sometimes vaguely referencing anticipated no-shows or flexible arrangements in first class, potentially code for bumping legitimate passengers. The final test came as Sky Elite prepared its official response and remedial actions. Their initial offer was substantial: significant compensation for Jalen, termination of Langley, enhanced customer service training for crews. Marcus Carter, advised by Clara and Jalen, pushed back. It wasn't enough. They demanded systemic change. Mandatory, comprehensive anti-bias and de-escalation training developed with external experts, transparent metrics for tracking passenger complaints related to discrimination, and clear consequences for violations. They also insisted Sky Elite fund an independent initiative promoting diversity in aviation careers. This was Jalen's dark night, the point where accepting a settlement would be easy, but pushing for systemic change was harder, requiring sustained pressure and potentially a protracted public battle if Sky Elite refused. He thought about other young people who might face similar situations without his father's resources. He told his dad and Clara, "We have to push for the real changes. It's not just about me." They prepared their final response to Sky Elite, ready to terminate the contract and pursue legal action if their demands for systemic reform weren't met. The climax occurred not in a courtroom, but in the sterile environment of a corporate negotiation room. Marcus Carter, Jalen, participating via secure video link between school commitments, and Clara Evans met with Sky Elite CEO, Chief Legal Officer, and Head of In-Flight Services. Sky Elite's executives opened with renewed apologies and reiterated their offer of compensation and Langley's termination. Marcus Carter calmly laid out their non-negotiable terms. The comprehensive anti-bias training program developed with independent oversight, transparent reporting on discrimination complaints, policy changes giving gate agents and documented manifests final authority over flight attendants in seating disputes, and the funding of the Diversity in Aviation Initiative. "This isn't about compensation," Marcus stated firmly, his voice echoing the sentiment Jalen had expressed. "It's about ensuring procedures are followed, bias is rooted out, and every single passenger who pays for a ticket is treated with respect, regardless of their appearance or status level." Carter Technologies cannot, in good conscience, continue a multi-million-dollar partnership with an airline that allows such blatant discrimination to occur and potentially fester. He made it clear the $50 million contract hung in the balance, ready to be pulled immediately. Jalen then spoke briefly but powerfully via video link, describing the humiliation and anger he felt, emphasizing that it wasn't just about his seat, but about the principle. He shared his idea for the Carter's Wings initiative to help underprivileged youth access opportunities in STEM and aviation. The combination of Marcus's unwavering business threat, Jalen's articulate testimony, Clara's meticulously prepared evidence of Langley's past behavior patterns and suspicious emails, and the ongoing negative press attention left Sky Elite cornered. After a tense recess for internal consultation, the Sky Elite CEO returned. "Mr. Carter, Jalen," he said somberly, "you are right. We have failed. We accept your terms. We will implement the training, reform the policies, fund the initiative, and work to regain your trust and the trust of all our passengers." The agreement was hammered out and signed, representing a significant victory beyond just Jalen's individual case. The aftermath saw swift and significant changes. Victor Langley and the implicated crew members were terminated, their careers in commercial aviation likely over. Further investigations might lead to FAA sanctions or civil suits, though criminal charges remained less certain. Evelyn Stokes received a formal warning and likely had her elite status reviewed or revoked by Sky Elite. True to their word, Sky Elite, under guidance from consultants recommended by Clara Evans, rolled out a mandatory, rigorous anti-bias and procedural training program for all customer-facing staff. They revised internal policies to prioritize verified manifests over flight attendant discretion in seating disputes and established a clearer, more robust system for reporting and investigating discrimination complaints with published transparency reports. Marcus Carter, satisfied with the airline's commitment to change, agreed to maintain the Carter Technologies contract contingent on sustained progress. He proudly provided seed funding for Jalen's Carter's Wings Foundation, which quickly gained traction, offering scholarships and mentorships for minority youth interested in STEM and aviation. Jalen became a reluctant but effective young advocate, sharing his story at youth forums to inspire others to challenge injustice. He finished his trip to NYC, aced his presentation at the conference, and returned home, No longer just the CEO's son, but a young man who had faced down prejudice and, with courage and support, forced a powerful corporation to confront its flaws. Life returned to a new normal, but the incident left an indelible mark, reminding Jalen and Sky Elite that dignity isn't a privilege of status, but a fundamental right worth fighting for at any altitude.